I decided to move to New Zealand, and Taz decided to come with me. We took this massive road trip up the East Coast, across the Midwest, and down into Utah. 3 friends, all separated on different parts of the country. We're gonna bring the adventure crew back together.
Vincent called me up and he's like, hey man, you want to move to New Zealand? And I was like, yeah, of course I want to move to New Zealand. So we kind of cracked up this idea. I'm like, okay, well, Vincent, you fly from Utah down to Florida. Like, I'll sell my apartment and then we'll hop in the car and then we'll drive back to Utah and then I'll fly out to Hawaii and on to New Zealand after that. So that's sort of what we did. So I was packing up my room. Vincent gives me a call. He's like, hey man, I'm getting on the plane now. I'll be there in a few hours. I was like, all right. So I just stayed up all night packing. 5:30 in the morning. Picked up Vinny at the airport. Is that you, like, on the only bit of curb that has no fucking parking space on it? Yeah, I see. Hopped in the car. Like, you wanna go to the beach? Leaving Florida, our first stop was gonna be Asheville, North Carolina. Kurt's always talking about North Carolina. It's like he wants a future in tourism or something. He's just like, man, you guys gotta see North Carolina, man. You guys it's so awesome. It's been over a year since we've seen Kurt, so it was really exciting to get on the road and heading up to North Carolina.
The adventure crew is back. I have truly missed the adventure crew going on some of the adventures that we did. To say that one of those adventures just happened to be Asheville, North Carolina, or I should say Western North Carolina. So Asheville is kind of like, it's rich with culture, music, it's Beer City, USA. We went to the Jump Circle and I showed him around a little bit downtown and got a little shitty before we went home. So Vinny decided to come to Asheville and buy a shotgun. Send him to Pawn World because they have a selection that is unmatched. Racks on racks on racks of guns, and Vinny bought a shotgun, except he got like a bayonet with it. We shot trash bags full of ammunition.
Take 2? Take 3?
Just go.
Go.
Go! Oh, fuck. Yeah! 1, 2, 3!
Did we get it?
It was fucking glorious. Gatlinburg's always been a thing. If you wanted to get really messed up for free, you would go to Gatlinburg and you would drink the moonshine. You go to those distilleries, they give out free testings. Kind of like if you go to a winery, you get free wine testings, but with this, it's moonshine. These little bitty cups don't look like they're gonna, mess you up that much, but they do. They mess you up hard.
They had a blue flame one, they called it. It was 120 proof, and that was good. I was actually surprised at how many flavors of moonshine I actually liked.
All the ones that didn't taste like moonshine were good?
Yeah. The problem started long before it crashed. We were flying and doing an overhang over the trees flight, trying to get a good shot, and we lost signal. And I thought it was about to crash into a tree, so I had to give it full throttle, try to gain some altitude again, and then we finally saw it. We flew it with the broken prop guard on there, and somewhere on the flight, it popped back up and started hitting the propeller and made it start wobbling out of control. Over in this forest, with how dense it is, it was a climb down. It was like going through the jungles of Okinawa again.
Never thought that jungle warfare would pay off. Huh?
Yeah, son of a bitch. Found the crash site of the GoPro. The shrubbery is so thick and just bouncy. I think we got a soft landing on it, even though it went down kind of hard. So there's a broken prop piece that we think caused it to go down, because I heard a bunch of clinking. Anyways, I'm gonna hike back up now.
Mount Pisgah Trail. This trail leads through Pisgah National Forest to the summit of Mount Pisgah. Named after the biblical mount from which Moses first saw the Promised Land, this peak affords a panoramic view of western North Carolina. Steep in spots.
Hike up here was good. We're about to head down the road, go hike some trails to some water. We're gonna jump off some cliffs, get wet.
Kind of locks up, and all you can think is, get me out of the water.
Oh yeah, baby! Yeah! Yeah!
Millions of years later, it's all soft and lush and green like a jungle, and the canyon is much less steep and it grows into an ecosystem like this. And it's amazing. Earth is amazing.
We're riding into town now. Gonna pick up some supplies and we're gonna get ready to camp tonight. We're gonna open up that bottle of wine for Kurt that he doesn't know we have. I don't remember the name of the road, but we went back and forth on that road trying to find a campsite. We finally found a spot off this road. Found this little trail, creepy trail. We got Tasman right there, packing his 40 out aside in case we get attacked by Sasquatch. Squirting on some of that magic juice, get that fire going. Kurt's going into his Vader mode on this log.
So we brought you a present. Do you recognize this?
They brought the passion fruit wine.
All the way from Okinawa, Japan.
We bought it just as like I'm sure this would be like a good Christmas wine. We didn't drink it for every occasion. Dude, I completely forgot about it. I could have sworn that you had to have already opened it somewhere or something, but you didn't. And you brought it here. I'm so fucking excited. We're going to it. I was like, Okinawa, dude. I gotta cheers somebody.
I'm really glad we got to spend some time in North Carolina. Glad we got to hang out with Kurt, having a few beers, sleeping in the hammocks, and
I don't know, man. This is like a very bittersweet time. I can't wait for the next installment, the Adventure Cruise, the next episode.
I was sitting around the fire talking about the good old times, the memories. It was good last night together before we all went our separate ways again.
Safe travels, Taz and Vinny. Hope the road goes easy.
it's been a nice couple of days. Gonna be heading off, going down the road here soon.
I'm just so freaking happy that I was able to share all of that with Taz and Vinny, and I'm gonna miss the fuck out of them.
So now we're moving onward. We're going up to Wisconsin. Still got a long drive to go. Probably about a good 15 hours ahead of us with stops.
Aaron calls us up. He's like, hey guys, if you're heading through South Dakota, you gotta stop by my mom's restaurant. It's up in Wisconsin. So we made this pit stop at the Serving Spoon. We're like, hey, let her know we'll be there in a few hours. And he's like, okay, I'll let her know what you guys look like.
He says, James is a little skinny white guy with challenge facial hair. And Taz is brown. He says, that's the best I can do for your mom.
Wags has made this spectacular recommendation.
We sat down and we had some of the best food of the trip.
That burger was much welcome.
Once we got into the grasslands and everything just kind of opened up, man, I was just like,
It's really quite peaceful when you get out of the rush of everyday life.
that's when the road trip really sort of turned into a road trip.
Old railways and bridges and
When I was a kid, we used to do a lot of moving around. I think it was one of my favorite places to go. So I'm like, oh, we're doing this big road trip. We got to go back through the Badlands. Turn off the main road onto this dirt road and it takes us all the way up to this perfect little lookout.
absolutely gorgeous. Like, wow. All of a sudden we're in the Badlands where there's just not a soul in sight. and the sunset was going down, and we just sat on the car, just on the hood of the Jeep, and we just cracked a brew, and we just enjoyed the moment, because that's what it was. It was our moment.
And then we made our way on over to South Dakota in the morning. You know you're getting close to South Dakota because your dandelions are gonna start getting about this big.
Well, hello there, world. We're about to go down into the S&G cave, short for Shits and Giggles. It's a nice one-way cave, not too many shafts going outside of it, so we shouldn't get lost in here. However, if we do, feel free to sell our belongings and make do with what we have. Good day.
So
Could be down there where Taz is going.
we're pretty sure the rest of the cave goes down this way.
Oh, this is where the knee pads and elbow pads be nice. Ooh, that rock is cold on my belly. This is what it's about, though. Crawling through the hole, looking like you're being born through the earth.
This is the last big open space before we get into some of the tighter stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and leave the big camera here, and we're just gonna go in with the GoPro. Taking my headlamp, taking my flashlight. You guys don't need it.
We were supposed to make a loop and turn around, but we couldn't find the turnaround point. We weren't lost, but we were lost. And I mean, I hadn't been in that cave for probably like 6 or 7 years, you know? We're freaking lost now inside this cave. You don't see anything now. Come over this rock though, and that is the way out right through there. You see this rib goes right down the middle. That's why they call it the sternum buster. Keep your head turned one way. Look at that. That's the way down right there. Oh, hey, dude. You can see your camera down there. You can see it's pointing in a completely opposite direction. Hope the monsters don't get you.
I got some holes in my shirt, and I got some cuts on my arms.
The caves, they're great. I love them. They're nice and cool. We got out of it alive. I'm ready to go get a milkshake or something. So let's do that.
So we rolled up to Silver City, South Dakota. I think one of the first things we did there was pull all the guns out.
We're gonna go shoot some shit. We got about 800 rounds of shotgun ammo alone between the three of us.
400 rounds of Mosin,
Just 400 rounds for this puppy alone.
and about 300 rounds of 223.
You? Chris pulled out some of his old Russian rifles and his shotguns, and it was so much fun.
Look at how many he caught.
So we're here up at Medicine Mountain Scout Ranch. This is where I spent my last summers before the Marine Corps, teaching rock climbing and high adventure. Behind me we got a lot of the scenery of what these hills are made out of. You got Ponderosa pines, you got the rocks, the kind of grassy plains with lots of birds up here, owls, raptors, birds of prey, you know, hawks. You got ospreys, they'll swoop up out of the lakes and get the fish from there. Little fruits and stuff. You actually got a wild raspberry up here. This is, you find these throughout all the hills. And the beauty about it is you're away from civilization, you're out of cell phone reception, and it's just you and nature.
Every time I see South Dakota, it's just passing through. So it was really nice that Vinny, you know, had a just an old friend there.
We've driven across the hills. I've shown you as much of the hills as I can in 2 days. My car officially smells like shotgun shells now.
We had an awesome time with my buddy Chris, old climbing friend of mine. That was my first time seeing him since before the Marine Corps.
But goodbyes are like finite, and it's like, so long, thanks for all the fish.
We're leaving South Dakota. We're just gonna keep driving. I don't know where we are, so Vinny's just gonna navigate for us, and he has some stuff planned out, some places he likes to go to. So anyways, we're heading out. We're going west.
We actually left around sunset in Salt Lake City. We drove all night to get here. Took us about 5 hours, and once we got here, we just started an awesome fire, and it's just like being in the cowboy scene all over again. Yeah, we set up the hammocks, tried to sleep as long as we could before it started getting too hot outside. But you know, in the middle of the desert, it can warm up pretty quick once that sun starts hitting you. So here we got some quality American propane. Danger, extremely flammable. Fire, explosion hazard. Contents under pressure. Sounds to me like a good time. We have us here, a T-Rex chaser. Let's go set this up. Looked like it was high. Woo-hoo-hoo! Hit right in front of it again. Yeah!
So what we didn't know is that if you take a flare and you put it right next to the canister will actually extinguish the flare. And that was a little bit of a letdown, but after that it was just fireball.
Took my dad's old deer hunting rifle out there and just sniped this one propane tank, and it just vaporized. We couldn't find any of the bottle anywhere. We had this one propane tank that we shot, and it was just like we just went all launching at us, and we're like, "What?" And Taz started standing up and shooting at it, and we're all shooting at it. It was glorious. And you know, we took the shotguns, finished them off. So after we were done shooting, we jumped into the Jeep and we decided to take the cross-country trail through the desert instead of hooking back onto the main road. So that was a little bit of fun, going off-roading with the Jeep, going through the desert. Once we finally got to Zion's National Park, we actually had to park outside and take a shuttle in through the park. The first trail that we decided to go to, which were the Emerald Pools.
I'm like, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's this thing of water and it's like green and shit. And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, so the trail goes through the center of this valley and we end up right against the canyon wall. And we're like, bro, like, how did we get here, man? So we're right here at the base of this cliff. That's the cliff. So if you see those wee little specks of people all the way down there, that's the trail we're supposed to be on. And if you see that run right there, that's the way we came up. But anyways, we turned around and we just had like this great view of the whole canyon. It worked out too because we did like half the trail and we got like an awesome view out of it.
Yeah, granted, we were bushwhacking it through sagebrush and cactuses and almost dying from boulders falling on each other. But in the long run, I mean, it was a beautiful view. You know, I think that's a plus.
We saw this deer and all these tourists are taking pictures of the deer. And me and Vincent are like, man, we can take better pictures than that. So I'm like, yeah, dude, I got this. Vincent's like, hey man, don't you want to use the GoPro? And I'm like, no, I don't want to use the GoPro. I want to use the telephoto lens, dude. So I start setting up my lens and Vincent starts setting up his GoPro and I'm like, dude, don't even bother, man. Mine's going to come out so much better. He's like, nah, dude, mine's going to come out so much better.
Lowered the camera down over the bridge. The perfect shot of the deer. Got right up in its face. Nice centered picture. It was brilliant.
I think I won. We'll see what Vincent has. It'll be in the final cut, so you guys will be able to make the decision.
Can't wait to see how well that shot came out, because it is going to look good. Shortly after that, we jumped back on the shuttle, and we went up to the Canyon River Walk, which was a lot of fun.
The canyon walls, they narrow down on this river, and so it's like basically in order to keep hiking along the canyon, you have to hike through the river. So when Vincent was telling me about this, I'm like, oh yeah, dude, we have to go down there and take a look. And that was just perfect because after all day, you know, it was a typical desert day in the August, summer, really hot.
We got to this little bend in the river where the water got deeper and it had a little cliff next to it that we decided to climb up and jump into. Ended up going upstream a little bit and we could just kind of slide down the river.
Came out of the river, went back into the desert, dried out really quick, ended up at some restaurant that someone recommended.
So we're at the end of the road now. We started off in Florida.
Drove up the interstate, went out to Asheville, North Carolina, Candler, North Carolina.
And then we went to South Dakota, passed through the Badlands, saw some caves.
Utah's like the last bit. After this, I'm getting on a plane and I'm going to Hawaii. We didn't stay in a single hotel room the entire time. It's rare that you can cross a country like the United States and you're just running into people you know, catching up with people you haven't seen in forever. Especially for us, you know, just being out of the Marine Corps, just getting back to America, getting ready to leave America again, seeing places we've never been before, but it's also about going back to places that we like, seeing people we haven't seen in a while, seeing people we don't get to see too often.
It's nice to move on, but at the same time, God, I wish it wouldn't end. This is it. This is James checking out. Till next time.